Good morning, everyone. Good evening and good afternoon to viewers from all walks of life. This is Denzimus, and you're welcome to the channel of truth, enlightenment, freedom, and the channel of breaking empaths free. If you are new, on this channel I talk about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. I talk about spirituality and I talk about personal and self-development. And if any of that resonates with you, I invite you guys to join us. Give us a like, share the video with friends, and you may subscribe if you haven't already. And for those that have always been with us, you are welcome back, and I thank you for your love and support. So in this particular video, I'm going to talk about empathy. So when it comes to empathy, we're talking about the empaths. So a lot of people have thought that empathy is a gift and a curse at the same time. You know, being an empath, some people believe it's a gift. Some people believe it's a curse, but I just believe in my own perspective that whichever way you look at it, you may have to come to face with the pros and cons of being an empath. Because of course, an empath is somebody who goes through a very long process of evolution. You know what I mean? So in the early days of your journey, you may not necessarily have known that you're an empath. You know, so maybe that is even one of the basic reasons as to why a lot of people would just come in from nowhere, you know, and they would feel somehow there's something they could benefit off of you, you know. So in that way, yes, it could have been a curse in the early journey, you know, but as an empath evolves and, you know, they grow up to become a super empath. So those empaths will learn that those gifts of theirs, they can also be gifts that can be used to help other individuals, because empaths, of course, we know empaths have a lot of gifts, spiritual gifts. Many of them are light workers, many of them are healers. Of course, the evolved empath, they know the power that they hold, you know. So the unevolved empath, they know the depth of their powers, and they know how to use their powers appropriately. So that is the point whereby you will see the empath using their gifts to the best of their abilities, not only for themselves, but also to uplift people in their community, in their families, to help other individuals become a better version of themselves. Unlike the other empath, of course, in their early days, who will face a lot of challenges. Of course, I've been there eventually, and I'm speaking from my own perspective. I've been there. So they'll have a lot of challenges whereby a lot of bad things are going to have happened to them in their early journeys. You know, their families will take advantage of them. People will do all sorts of things they want to them, because they will notice for somehow they are weak. People will be thinking somehow that because of their weakness, because empaths in the beginning, they may tend to be very weak, you know, because of that thing, that empathy in them, the ability to resonate with other individuals around them and to feel what they are feeling. So some people, they take this thing as a curse, or so they take this thing as a weakness, and they actually sometimes even use it. They have usually used it against them, you know. So in this video, I have about 10, I can call them 10 challenges. I'm going to call them challenges in this video. So I think I'm going to talk about 10 challenges, or rather, why you would think it's hard to be an empath. So I'm going to talk about 10 challenges of being an empath. So number one of these challenges is an empath will always absorb other people's energy. So you see, as an empath, people will always be drawn to you for some reason, you know what I mean? So people will be drawn to you. Sometimes you may not even have to be, they may not have to be drawn to you, but you may sometimes find yourself in situations whereby you are in an environment, and whichever environment it is, you are also going to, because an empath, we have to understand, these people, like they're like emotional sponge. They're like an emotional sponge. So when an empath enters a hospital, for example, they start feeling all these feelings that people are feeling in those hospitals. You know what I mean? Or sometimes when the empath is at a funeral, they start feeling the same way other people are feeling. So you're going to notice that whichever place you go, you're for some reason absorbing other people's energy, and you're going to become a part of whatever it is, whatever experience you are in at that moment. So if you're in a hospital, you're going to feel like the same thing what people in the hospital are feeling. If you're in a place where there's a party, there's happiness, you're also going to get absorbed in that happiness, and you're going to feel exactly what everybody else in that vicinity is feeling. So that's one of the things you're going to notice, that as an empath, you will always absorb other people's energy. And again, it can be good energy sometimes, but at the same time, mostly it has always been bad energy. So the second thing about being an empath challenge is an empath is always going to be taken advantage of, you know. So people will usually think you're weak, you know, because empath, normally they are people who are laid back. Empaths, they don't want to come out and you know, take the forefront or things like that. So empaths, they are normally very laid back people. They don't want chaos, they don't want drama, you know what I mean? So because of that, a lot of individuals you meet along the journey, they will take advantage of you, you know, because they think you cannot fight for yourself, you know. So they think you cannot answer back, you cannot fight for yourself. Which is even the reason why you see a lot of times when the empath awakens, you know, because a lot of empaths eventually they go through some kind of awakening, you know. So they eventually understand these things going on around them, and they get to that point of awakening. So this is the basic reason why you see a lot of people, they start to run away from you, because they cannot believe for the very first time in your life that you're taking the power in your hands and you're starting to speak for the very first time. And a lot of empaths, of course, they have awakened at a very later age, you know. So some empaths, you see them waking up later on, after 30, after 40. They wake up at a very later age and they start evolving to become super empaths. So, but along the journey, this is one of the things you're going to notice, that a lot of people, they will be taking advantage of you. Of course, in the early days when you don't know that, it will affect you as an empath. But when you evolve, you will know that actually nobody can ever take anything from you, or nobody can ever take your weakness as a what? Nobody can ever take your empathy as a weakness. So the third thing, which is the hard thing about being an empath, is an empath is always going to attract a lot of broken people. So you see, for some reason, the empath, they radiate that energy of empathy. So they are very soft, kind of people. You know what I mean? So empathy, a lot of people, they can kind of sniff that energy from afar. So you'll see a lot of these broken people, you know, sometimes people who need healing, sometimes people who need one or two things, advice or things like that. You are going to notice that a lot of empaths on their journey, they encounter a lot of broken people, you know what I mean? And not only do they encounter a lot of these broken people, but they also absorb the energy those particular individuals are carrying. So that's why you see, when it comes to light working and all this kind of the light workers and all this kind of super empaths, the evolved empaths, those guys, because they know how to protect their energy, because they learn a lot about themselves, they start to put some kind of mechanisms to protect their energy, because now they know who they are. So they start to protect their energy. That is what helps them to be able to help people without actually getting broken or getting absorbed in their energies, you know. So they're able to help people on a deeper level without having to take on their energies, because they know how exactly they need to protect their energy. They can differentiate the difference between their own energy and the energy of other individuals around them. So another hard thing about being an empath, you'll always feel the need to recharge your batteries, you know what I mean? So when it comes to being an empath, you will notice that most of the times along your journey, like most of the times of the day, you keep on picking up on different kinds of energies. Wherever you go, it doesn't matter whether you're in the train, you're in the bus, you're in the plane. If those individuals next to you, the people you encounter on a daily basis, whatever they tell you, or even just you standing next to them, or sometimes the things they say, or sometimes even the things you see on TV, most of those energies, you keep on picking up on those energies on a daily basis. And what happens is that now those energies, you absorb most of those energies, and those energies, they bring down your vibration to some degree, you know what I mean? So what happens is that now you always feel the need to recharge your batteries. So you may sometimes find you wanting to be alone by yourself, because you know you've been overwhelmed. Maybe you came from a party, maybe you came from a funeral, maybe you came from the hospital, maybe you came from different kinds of places, and sometimes you're overwhelmed. So you always feel the constant need to recharge your batteries. You know, for some reason you want to be alone and recharge. So that's one of the downside, I think I can say the downside, the fourth one of being an empath. So the fifth one, an empath will always feel the need to be of service, you know what I mean? Because an empath, it's like an empath, wherever you go, you can read the energy, you can read the energy around you, you know what I mean? So you always feel a bigger need, you know. It's like there's something inside you telling you that there's something you need to do, you know. Sometimes you'll see empaths even sometimes volunteering in things they shouldn't even, sometimes things they're less concerned about, because sometimes empaths, when they come across other individuals, they feel there is one or two things they can do, you know what I mean? And a lot of empaths, that's why you see most of the cases, these particular individuals, these are like, you know, toxic individuals you've always met along your journey. they always feel like you know they can always come around and you can give them some kind of a service. They always feel entitled to your service. You know what I mean? So it's like an empath is a person who is like, wherever they are, the people they meet, they always feel there's something they need to do, help them or something like that. You know, so empaths, they are usually very giving people. You know, it's because of that gift of empathy. They're very giving and helping and giving people. You know, very kind-hearted people. So normally, wherever they are, they're always going to feel like they have to go to, and it is something what is on is like something deep in their consciousness. You know what I mean? They just feel that there's always something they can do to whichever person they meet. It doesn't matter sometimes whether they have to or not. They just feel they have got to, because I think it's deep within their soul that they know that for some reason they are here to do one or things, or to help one, or to help other individuals, you know, some with one or two things with their own service, you know. So the sixth one I will talk about is an empath. The downside of being an empath is an empath cannot stand injustice, you know. So the empath, when you talk about empathy, empathy is all about goodness and kind-heartedness. So when you talk about injustice, we talk about people who try to like harm other individuals, people who try to steal from people, people who try to do all kinds of evil to other individuals. So the empaths normally they stand up for injustice. So you will see them. Sometimes you will see a lot of those guys. Like for example, when you talk about the black sheeps, you guys, the empaths who have been the black sheeps in the family, it has always been very hard for you to see your parents mistreating other individuals, or sometimes favoring other individuals, or sometimes doing one or two things. So empaths normally we see the little things, the little gaps and the little missing dots in the equations. You know what I mean? So normally when you see those kind of injustices happening, normally that's why you see, like I've said, those black sheeps. That's why you see them. They always call out the injustice, you know. And no matter it doesn't matter who is in front of them. It can be their parent, it can be their boss, it can be anybody. The empath, they don't care. When you talk about empathy, those guys who are like the black sheeps in those families. Of course, I don't only mean the black sheeps in this situation, but normally it will be more obvious for the black sheeps, because they're the guys who are mostly involved with a lot of cases which involve in injustice in their families. You know what I mean? So those are the guys usually. You will see them, they cannot stand injustice. So whenever they see something going on to other individuals, they're going to come out and speak. And they're going to speak the truth, you know, because again, we also have to remember that empathy is all about the truth. So when they see injustice being done, whether it is somebody being punished in work for nothing, whether it is like you guys I've done a video recently, you guys have told you that there's a job I used to do as a supervisor. And then there was this narcissistic boss who didn't want to pay the workers, you know. So there used to be these guys, the workers, who were very, very hardworking as well, you know. They would work their butts off, but at the end of the day, end of the month, you would see this boss running away with their money, you know. They don't want to pay them. So I'm the one who used to go there and make sure and put the boss on pressure, you know, to make sure that they pay the workers, because I didn't like to see it, you know what I mean. So the empaths, the people cannot stand injustice. So you will always find yourself fighting for justice to be done. The other thing we'll talk about here is the seventh one is empathy. I will call it a downside, but I don't know if it's really a downside, but I believe it's a good thing to discern, to have the ability to discern the people around you, you know. And then the problem is that not only can you discern the people around you and what is going on within their, sometimes you will even read people before you will know people before even they know themselves, and you actually be able to read people in the early instances of your encounters on a daily basis. So not only are you able to discern most of those individuals, the problem will be that you cannot alert them or intervene or even sometimes warn them. So sometimes you will see people like running towards the edge of the cliff. I'll just give you a clear example for you guys to understand this. So sometimes you will see like examples whereby there is people, you can see them, they are heading towards destruction. You remember? Actually, let me use a very clear example in this one. So for me, in those days when I was waking up from narcissistic abuse, in those days, I didn't want to like leave a lot of chaos, a lot of turmoil behind. So I was talking to the narcissist. I told her, you know what? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do it? How are you going to manage? How are you going to do this? I was making sure that I knew that this whole thing is going to end very badly, and I was very, very concerned about it. You know what I mean? So sometimes I was asking the nurses what is going to happen next. You know, what is A, what is B, what is. I wanted to make sure that even before I leave, of course I knew that I was going to leave in that situationship. but I just want to know the details, what is going to happen, because of course eventually there's kids involved. So I was very much even concerned about this. So I was asking a lot of questions. You know what I mean? So sometimes you see empaths that they will see a lot of people like they're running, or sometimes they are cruising towards the edge of the cliff, and sometimes it's very, very difficult for them to warn them. They can almost not even warn them. They cannot even intervene in those situations, however bad they are. And sometimes it will make them feel bad, because sometimes even most of those individuals, whatever they hit rock bottom or something like that, the empath will have known that actually in the early days they could see this coming. So it is something. Some of those things they will see, they will discern in the early stages, and they will know that this particular individual, they're going downhill or they're going to hit rock bottom. So sometimes the empaths, because sometimes they may not be necessarily in position to intervene in those situations, so that sometimes they may just have to stand and look at things from a distance, and it will make them feel very guilty that even sometimes when those guys hit rock bottom, they have not been able to intervene in those situations because they didn't have the authority to do that, or sometimes they didn't have the capacity, or sometimes there was no time to do that. So the empath, that's the seventh one, whereby you will have to discern people around you, but at the same time, you will notice that at some time you cannot alert them of the dangers ahead, or the destruction ahead of them. So sometimes you will feel guilt about it. That's one of the downsides as well of being an empath. And again, these things are according to my own experience. But you guys in the comment section below, you guys may have to add your own cases. How hard has it been for you being as an empath? So these have been in my own perspective. So as well, talking about discernment, you will also notice, which is the eighth one, that a lot of people around you, they will resent your authenticity. You know what I mean? And because empaths, one of the downsides of being an empath is that people will resent your authenticity. So an empath is a very authentic person. Empaths are not fake. Empaths, they don't come around and sugarcoat things. They will not come around and tell you something what you need to know because they don't want to hurt you or things like that. So sometimes you'll see empaths coming out as being authentic because they cannot stand being fake. They like to stand true to the truth. They like to stand in the authenticity and to the truth of who they really are. So they don't like fakeness and fake people. So sometimes because of that, you will see a lot of fake people around you, the people you meet on a daily basis. Again, this can be friends, families. So you will see a lot of these individuals, when they see that you're so original and so authentic, sometimes it's going to disturb people and rub people in the wrong way. You know what I mean? I've seen it along my journey in my videos, in the early days when I started sharing, you know what I mean? So in fact, even those days, I used to think that I was doing something wrong because I would just come out like as authentic and say things exactly how they were or how they were in my situation. So some people didn't like that authenticity, and they didn't know how to process that. So some of the things I said, they were like, oh, this guy, how did he even come out? How did he even have the guts to say something like that? You know what I mean? So sometimes you would see people, you will see this kind of backfire in the comment section. Oh, you cannot say that because it's like this. You cannot say this because. So you meet a lot of resistance for nothing. But that is because you are just authentic. You know what I mean? So authenticity in the world that we live today, a lot of people don't know how to be authentic. So a lot of people don't know because of the, of course, it's because of the society and everything, the social construct and everything, the way we've been brought up, the matrix system and everything, culture, religion. So people have lost the authenticity. But still, empaths, you'll notice that empaths, they have always tried to maintain their authenticity. And because of that, they have kept on doing exactly what they need to do, when they need to do it, how they need to do it, and saying exactly what they need to say. And because of that, a lot of people cannot stand that, and they don't know how to digest an empath authenticity. And that is why you see a lot of people will resent you just because you're authentic and you're real to yourself and to the truth of who you are. So that's one of them. And the ninth one is, as an empath, you may notice that you're also going to miss out on a lot of events, because eventually we all know that empaths, they are loners. So there are people who want to be alone. They spend a lot of time alone. So you'll notice that most of the time people will invite you for events, but because you already know what is going to happen in those events, sometimes you know that you may go to those events and you're going to pick up a lot of energy. You're going to start maybe sometimes absorbing other people's energy for nothing. And sometimes you notice that actually you're going to say no, because you want to stay in your room. Maybe sometimes you feel those events, particular events, they're not good for you. Like for me, sometimes I feel very uncomfortable when I go to watch football. That is me. I'm not saying this for everybody, but in my own perspective, if you're talking about football stadiums, like hanging around in football stadiums, like noisy clubs, like discotheques, things like that with a lot of noise, I cannot afford that kind of noise, that level of noise. For somehow my brain cannot even process that. So that's why sometimes I've usually along my journey, of course, eventually I've had to go to some of those events, even sometimes by force. But normally when I notice there's a lot of chaos going on in the place or somewhere, I would find all kinds of excuses to stay out of those places, and I would make all kinds of excuses to stay home. So as an empath, you're going to find yourselves as a loner that you're going to be saying no to a lot of your friends. Let's go to the club. There's a party going on. I got tickets to the concert and this and that. So as an empath, you're going to find yourself saying no to a lot of events because you want your own peace and your own serenity and your own freedom and your own time alone. So there will be that time. It's a downside that you're going to have to say no, and sometime again, it's going to cause a lot of friction to the people your friends, families. They'll be like, okay, so every time we invite you to something, you don't want to go, you want to stay at home. So it is going to be difficult for you. Sometimes it will be always hard, but you will know that you're saying no for a reason. And some people cannot understand exactly why you are saying no, because some people don't even really know that you're an empath. So they just say, let's go to the party, let's go to this, let's go to the concert. You're always going to have to say no. So if you're an empath, you already have to resonate that one of these things has happened to you, that whereby people have been inviting you every now and then for events and you have said no. So another one, which is the last one, the 10th one, the downside of being an empath. As an empath, you're going to find a hard time meeting your tribe. Now, of course, this is obvious because empaths are loners, number one. They like staying by themselves. They're like these are individuals. You will find them sometimes in the very quiet library, in the very huge library. You find them in the corner reading a book. Sometimes you'll find them in the nature park sitting somewhere, listening to some music on their phones, or sometimes like having long walks in the park. So empaths, sometimes you'll see it is very difficult to find your tribe, and that's what causes the loneliness, because the same thing you are doing as an empath is the same thing what another empath is doing. You know what I mean? You're avoiding concerts, another empath is avoiding concerts. You're avoiding confrontations, another empath is avoiding. So the same things you're doing is the same thing that what another empath is doing. So that's what causes the difficulty in finding your tribe, because at the end of the day now, you cannot meet the other empath because they are somewhere in the park listening to music, and then you are somewhere in the library reading a book. So it is going to be hard to meet people who are like you, people who understand you in a deep level, who are like you. That's why sometimes always again for the empath, it is very hard to date, because the empath, as they evolve, they notice that actually they want better in life. They want somebody who can reciprocate their love. They can give back, and they will give, and somebody will give them back. You know what I mean? So they're also wary about the people who just come in because they want to use them because they're empaths, and take from them and steal from them, and whatever it is, take from them. So a lot of empaths find, or even sometimes problems, finding their tribe, or sometimes finding soulmates, or sometimes finding. And I'm going to do a video again about the soulmate thing, the things that are going to happen before you meet the one. You guys should watch out for that video. It's coming soon. So empaths will find a hard time finding their tribe. Their tribe, they're also doing the same thing that empath is doing. You're locked up in your room. The other empath is also locked up in their room. You know what I mean? And there are no particular sites that people meet, like empaths really meet, to know that, okay, so these are empaths. Of course, eventually, recently, there are some other Facebook groups or sometimes social media groups of empaths, although I don't really think that everybody in those groups are empaths. Some of them, they're just coming around to see if there's something they can get out of other individuals, or sometimes even you can find some of those groups, they are also involved in the toxic, because the toxic people, they know who is an empath. So they will always do everything in their power to make sure that they look for wherever it is they can get those kind of individuals. So that being said, guys, these have been my 10 signs. Like I've said, it's been in my own perspective, but you guys out there, you can also add on your own experiences. The downside you've had to face as being an empath, you can always give us a comment in the section below about your own perspective, and let us know what you think. Other than that, guys, it's been lovely to have you guys on board. I always appreciate and love your support. Of course, let me know, guys, if you need a coaching session with me. I can coach you in so many things, life experiences, narcissism, relationships, things like that, self-development. So we can talk about a lot of things. If you need the session, all the links in the section below. Send me an email and I'll get back to you. And also, if you want to donate or support to this cause, all the links are there, Cashapp and PayPal. It's okay, you can always donate and support and keep this channel moving forward. I love you all, guys, and I'll catch you in my next one. Bye now. There's no more signing out.